Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. And I'm excited. You know why? Every Thursday, I bring this guy on named Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. And damn, the guy's pretty good. Anyway, Doug, how are you, my friend?
I thanks for the intro, but yes, last Thursday, we nailed down a couple of winners. So hey, let's do it again, Ross. Let's
Absolutely.
give the people what they want.
You know,
Winners.
absolutely. And we can't give out too many of those, that's for sure. But Doug, we were talking off air, and I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but these money lines in Major League Baseball are just getting ridiculous. And I guess why it doesn't bother me so much when it used to happen in September and late August is because football was here or right there on the horizon. So I really was selective. And when I use Major League Baseball, what that being the only mainstream sport right now, it's getting a little frustrating having to deal with these. And you made a good point, and I've made a couple of these picks, but I'm going to start looking more at these first 5 innings, because there's a lot of bad bullpens in baseball, Doug. And if you find yourself to have a very good starting pitching advantage, it'll work to your favor. We both had Milwaukee yesterday. I had Milwaukee on the run line. You had them on the money line, and we got great effort from Corbin Burns. 7 innings of scoreless baseball, and the Brewers were up 1-0 at the end of 5 innings. Milwaukee doesn't have a bad bullpen. Josh Hader blew his second game all year yesterday. Go figure, right? But having said that, I'm going to get your thoughts on that particular topic.
Yeah, well, and just to be clear here, I had that as part of a parlay because I wouldn't want to come on here and tell people with Ross sitting across from me and say, Doug, you're playing 245 favorites now. Oh, that's interesting. But no,
I can see how somebody would fall into that trap this year, but not somebody on the professional level. So,
but no, it's just it just goes night in and night out. You just see this time and time again. And in fact, my free play, I have something that relates to exactly what we're talking about. But the thing that there was a really good article in ESPN Plus, and it talked about the dying breed, the starting pitcher who can, go deep into games. The other night we had Mad Max Scherzer back, and I think he went with 7 or 8 innings, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk. Justin Verlander, is going 7+ innings. Sandy Alcantara, okay, he's has had 8 starts of 8 or more innings.
Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, Musgrove's another one. I mean, you got
Cole.
There's a few, but not many. And so what you have is, and I think we've talked about this, or I certainly have talked about it with other people. When you go into a game and you only allow your starting pitchers to go 5 innings, sometimes you're going to, from a 5th starter, you could expect that. But if you're asking 4 bullpen guys to have their A game every single night, and using at least 4 of them, and sometimes more, I mean, you're just asking for disaster. And I don't care what the analytics say. I don't care about any of that stuff. I mean, it's just not going to happen. As we've talked about, they're a reliever for a reason. They're not good enough to be a starting pitcher. So what baseball, in my opinion, needs to do, and you're starting to see a little bit of this, but start developing relievers that can go 2 innings. Okay. Yeah. You can transition it better. You're using fewer bodies. Find out who your trusted guys are, and that will make the situation better. Okay, not just for us as bettors and gamblers and handicappers, but just for the sport itself. Because I mean, it's just you go along. As they bring in a guy in the 6th inning, not so bad. He gets through the 6th, you get through the 7th. You bring a guy in the 8th, he gets lit up for 3 or 4 runs. Blows your play. It gets tiring to see on a daily basis. And whether it affects you or I or anybody that's watching this video, it just continues to happen. And it's frustrating.
Yeah. In this modern day of specialization, when it comes to bullpens, I think we're going to start to see more evolving toward the start. The problem is with the starting pitchers and the innings logged is too much analytics involved. You're right, Doug, because they start seeing a guy's velocity start to come down a mile or 2 per hour. by the sixth or seventh inning. A red flag goes up, a couple hard hit balls, pull the guy out of the game. Give me more to Max Scherzers, give me more to Joe Musgroves, give me more to Garrett Coles, the guys that when you send them out there, that there's a very good chance they're going to give you 6+ innings, sometimes 7+ innings. Sandy Alcantara, to me, is the most underrated pitcher in all of baseball. And he should be a contender for the National League Cy Young Award.
No question.
Right now, as we speak. I mean, I think there's one, who the heck's ahead of him? Musgroves. Who is? I'm sorry?
Gonsolin.
A guy like Musgrove is having a good year too.
Great year.
With San Diego. And I think what might hurt Alcantara when it's all said and done is the fact that Miami, the market they play in, yes, it's a large market, but it's not for baseball. I mean, they draw friends and family there. They don't get a lot of media attention. They're constantly, when they start to become good, they clean house and get rid of all their good players and start over again. And so, he's getting penalized for that. But I echo your frustration, Doug. It's getting very tiresome. Anyway, anything else you wanted to touch upon in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, just a couple of just minor points. We're at the halfway point for most teams, or some teams have surpassed it, and so I went and looked up the specifics as to who the best teams to bet on, and by units, not just record. Now, as it turns out this year, that primarily it is by record, those types of teams. But, like, for example, the Yankees, Houston, and the Mets are the 3 best bets in baseball. And so what I look for is why they are the best bets. So here's what I found is that, for example, the Yankees, we know they're dominant, but this kind of exemplifies how dominant they are. In games decided by 4 runs or more, the Yankees are 23-3. Okay. I mean, they're just kicking butt, just across the board. When the Astros and the Mets are favored in any game by any amount, Houston, 46-21, double digits in terms of units. Same with the Mets, 41-18 in those situations. Here's a surprise though, Ross. Who's the 4th best team? Now, I know you already know because I told you. Okay. but I'll let everybody think about that for a second. Okay, so all right, now you've had your chance. It's the Baltimore Orioles are 4th as a best bet. Okay, the team to back regularly. And how and why is that the case? Well, here it is. Their record when they're an underdog from +100 to +199, they are 28-27. I mean, so that is fantastic, and they're just making a ton of money. I believe I want to say it's 12 units on the year. That's what comes to mind. So either 11 or 12 units on that. So that's a really big number. And here's one that I don't know if you did this, Ross, but I bet San Francisco on the under for their season win total at 86.5. Okay, this year. And right now I'm right on schedule for it. And, a huge shift from last year to this year. Last year, the Giants were the best bet in baseball at better than 40 units on the year. They were 75-33 as favorites. This year, the Giants are 35-29 so far. So, and now last year they were up 27 units in this category. This year they're down double digits. So if you're looking for what changed, the Giants they're just not as good, and they're certainly not as good in the role of a favorite.
And going back to last year, not a lot of people thought the Giants were going to be any good. And lo and behold, they won, I believe, 107 games, 106 games, somewhere in that area. And so they vastly overachieved. And especially early in the year, they had some very favorable money line prices. Now they came back down to earth, and they were laying big money a lot of the time in the first half of the season. Lo and behold, Doug's statistics, he just rattled off about how much money they made last year compared to how much money they lost this year. The New York Yankees, I keep reading stuff. The Yankees have holes in their lineup. The Yankees bet against them in the second half. They can't continue to carry on at this pace. Maybe that's the case, but betting against them, is that really smart, Doug? Because this team has a great rotation, 1 through 5, a solid bullpen. And when you got 3 guys on pace to hit 40 or more home runs and 100 more RBIs, you might have some holes in the lineup. But those deep ball threats are really going to override that on most occasions. So, yeah, some very good points, Doug.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's just a lot, it's just we're into that time of year where we're looking around and seeing what there is to see, or at the halfway point, and the old adage of where are the teams on the 4th of July is that that used to be some truth in that those were the teams to look at to win the division. It's less so now because just the game has changed and everything else along with that. So, but it's just fun to, kind of see where things are at the halfway point. And especially, compared to like with football, hard to do because you got the NBA and the NHL have started to kick off. So it's just a little bit more difficult. So baseball lends itself to being able to do a little extra research and try and find some stuff.
Yeah. The Baltimore Orioles, intriguing team. From a betting standpoint, look, they're not going to be a contender in the AL East. They're actually the one with the only losing record of the 5 teams, but they're only 5 games under 500, and at home, 21-17. So I would venture to say that they're making a heck of a lot more money at home than on the road. But then again, I don't know, because I'd have to look at the splits on that, Doug, because I'm sure their average price on the road is much higher as an underdog than it would be at home. So
and their bullpen's been lights out too.
Especially at home. At home.
I mean, if they have a lead late, they're closing the deal. So that's the big difference for them.
And they're getting some good pitching from some guys you didn't expect it from. So
I mean, losing John Means was huge. And so some of these younger guys have stepped up, and it's just it's a variety of different components. But hats off to the manager keeping this together. They're actually sort of fun to watch. A lot of enthusiasm from the players, and I've watched a few of their games and tuned in some of the radio broadcasts, and it's actually fairly interesting now compared to what it's been for so long.
Oh, absolutely. So let's get on to our free picks. Doug, tell the people where they could find you, how you've been doing it late, and then just go right into your free pick for Friday, July the 8th.
I will certainly do that. So you can find me at name is Doug Upstone. I'm at the Doc Sports, so just check that out. They have pictures on there, so this one will match the one that's there. Well, actually, the one that's there might be a few pounds thinner, but but anyway, so that's where you can find me at. Recently, I've been having teeter-tottering, 1 week good, next week not so good. Been kind of doing that a little bit. So as we get to the halfway point of the season, looking for that big turnaround. Okay, that's what anybody that's in this position, that's what you're after, trying to find, select things. And that's what we're talking about when I mentioned research before. That's all part of it, looking for some holes, looking for some angles and things that you can solve. So we have that going. Obviously the golf tournament, the Scottish Open, has already started as we do this video. I've won 4 of the last 6 weeks in golf, so happy about that. Got some things going that direction. And as I mentioned last week, the CFL, the Canadian Football League, continues to do well. 15-8 since last year, 5-2 this year on a run of the what is it? $2,200. And here's a quick tip for you: if you don't follow Canadian football at all, this is of note. Or if you're interested, maybe consider betting. This year in the West Division, there's 5 teams. Okay. All but one of them, there's 3 teams that are unbeaten, and one of them is 3-1. The East Division has 4 teams. Not one team has a winning record. Okay, so when East has met West, the East is 1-10 straight up. I'm sorry, 1-11 and 4-8 against the spread. Wow. So this week 5, there's only 3 games, but I believe there's one of those that fits that criteria. I'm just throwing it out there for anybody that might be interested. All right, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that. Do you see that changing in the second half of the season or so? Because usually when we see lopsided numbers like that, the lines start to go up, meaning the teams in the East will be bigger favorites than they would have been in week 1 or week 2 based on the records right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, it can certainly change, but the disparity of talent is quite apparent, between the two divisions.
Okay.
And now I mean, there's just better teams in the West. I mean, it's exaggerated at this point. And yeah, will it level off some? And will the odds makers likely, make some inroads? But yes, I think that'll be the case. But as long as if you have some money line options, which I have used, take some of that action too, from that standpoint. And, if you got something like today's game, Calgary is playing, now this is an East-West, but Calgary is playing Edmonton today. That opened at 3.5 of Calgary favorite, went up to 5, so I passed on the game. I don't like them I didn't like Calgary enough as a road favorite in that situation, to do something like that. But, and there's like everything to do, there's a lot of variables, depends on how you want to look at them. And so money lines can be a good option, a little pricey for me today, but
yeah.
that's all right. Let's talk some free play baseball. And we have a matchup. If Tampa Bay and Cincinnati doesn't sound familiar to you, two teams playing, and you can't, like, in your head imagine them, well, you're right, okay? Because the last time they played was June of 2017. And the last time Tampa Bay visited Cincinnati, the Queen City on the shores of the Ohio River, that was 2014, Ross. So in this interleague opener, we have an excellent pitching matchup. Shane McClanahan against Luis Castillo. The Rays lefty McClanahan is 9-3 with a sterling 1.74 ERA, and opposing teams are hitting a measly 179 against him. And McClanahan, when things get tough, he gets even better. With runners in scoring position this season, batting average against him 135. So he's been fantastic. Now, Cincinnati's going to counter with Luis Castillo, and to be honest with you, I've always been a Luis Castillo fan. I can't even say exactly why. I like got a pretty smooth delivery. In the years that he's been healthy, he hits his spots. He's been good. Last year, he had an awful year. There was injuries involved. But this year, his record isn't any good because he's on a bad team. He's 3-4. But his ERA is 3.09. And he's just back to being his old self. You can see the confidence that he exudes when he's on the mound now. So it's just a completely different deal. But here's the story on the game. The current line in this one has the Rays at only -125. Now, the Rays aren't the same team of the last several years, but they're still better than Cincinnati by a long shot. And Cincinnati this season, Ross, they are 4-14 at home when the money line is +125 to -125. Castillo and the Reds, they've been rough again. It's been rough for them against the American League. That combination is 3-10 recently. And as I know Ross knows, and any of you that follow this baseball stuff on a daily basis, Tampa Bay crushes the National League. And if they're facing a National League team that has a slugging percentage of 390 or lower, they're 17-2. Wow. 17-2. All right. So yeah, where am I going? I think I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Rays, along with, and Ross mentioned bad bullpens. This is my favorite bullpen stat of the year. Okay. Tampa Bay, their difference in their ERA compared to Cincinnati is 2.39 differential.
That's huge. Yeah, that's absolutely huge.
Literally, it's laughable. Okay, on this one. So Tampa Bay is the play, and I would also consider a first inning under with these two pitchers. So DraftKings, now there's no lines on those yet. Those won't be available until tomorrow, but that's something else I'll throw out there as an extra bonus for you to consider.
So the under usually is under 1 or under half a run?
I'm sorry, 0.5. It's over 0. Under 0.5. First inning.
Yeah, yep. I was just going to say, Castillo's a guy in this particular instance. No, he does not have a starting pitching advantage over McClanahan, who right now I would say is the top vote getter for I should say the top candidate to win this year's AL Cy Young Award. But he's a guy you want to keep an eye on when the Reds play a team not as good as Tampa Bay, or he has a starting pitching advantage over whoever's on the other side, because he can give you 6-7 good innings.
Yep.
The Cincinnati bullpen is absolutely horrible, folks. I mean, I think their ERA is somewhere around 9 over their last 7 games,
That five, I think it's 5.83 on the year.
Okay. So
But yeah, I
5.83
think
in
you're
the
right,
year,
though.
and it's even worse recently.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's something you want to keep an eye on going forward. So you like the Tampa Bay Rays, and they are minus
125
125
right now.
Yeah. I would say that line's probably going to go up in my
I would agree.
estimation. And I would say you should get down early. But he likes Tampa Bay minus 125 over Cincinnati. And I certainly can't disagree with my man, Doug Upstone of DocSports.net. I'm going to take a look at the LA Angels and the Baltimore Orioles game. Speaking of the Orioles, it'll be Michael Lorenzen on the mound for the LA Angels, or slated to go tomorrow. I don't know how, pretty soon they're going to have to take a hard, long look at Lorenzen and say, do we want to keep this guy in the rotation or go back to using him in the bullpen the way Cincinnati did? And he's going to be facing the Baltimore Orioles with Tyler Wells on the mound at 7:05 p.m. Eastern time right now as we speak, which is 24 hours in advance. The Baltimore Orioles are a minus 110 money line home favorite, and the total in this game is 9. Speaking of Lorenzen, and as I alluded to, why he's on the cusp of them making a very tough decision, keeping him in the rotation over his last 3 starts, Doug, a 13.09 ERA, a 255 whip, and only averaging 3.7 innings pitched per start. In 6 road starts this year, which this will be a road start, the game's at Camden Yards, a 7.52 ERA and a 1.64 whip. This guy is just not getting it done. And you couple that with the fact that the Angels have been absolutely anemic over their last 7 games offensively. During that time, they've averaged just 2.6 runs per game and hit 157 as a team, and their on-base percentage over that course of time, 221. Absolutely brutal. Tyler Wells, 4-0 in his last 4 starts. Again, what me and Doug just touched upon, some of these young pitchers from the Baltimore Orioles are really exceeding expectations and making them a very competitive team right now. Wells 4-0 in his last 4 with a 1.23 ERA and a 0.82 whip. And the Baltimore bullpen at home this year, a 2.53 ERA and a 1.14 whip. The Orioles will, right now as we speak, are currently on a 4-game win streak. Again, we're taping 24 hours in advance, and also have won 8 of their last 10 at home, while the LA Angels 11-28 in their last 39 games. Of course, they had that big losing streak, but one team on the upswing, the other team underachieving, and just has all the signs of a team that's going to be playing out the string the rest of the way. And I'm going to take the Baltimore Orioles here, minus 110 over the LA Angels. Doug Upstone, he's on Tampa Bay, minus 125 over the Cincinnati Reds. You could find me at rbwins.com. That's rbwins.com. Been a little bit of a struggle with my premium pay selections in Major League Baseball over the last 2 weeks, but I continue to cash in on my Major League Baseball 10-star top play since the start of last season, 50-31, 62%. Last night had a nice winner in the Washington-Philadelphia game, under 8, and final score of 3-2. rbwins.com, guaranteed single game, multi-game, daily packages. If you don't win, you don't make a profit, I will credit your account the exact amount of your purchase price, and it doesn't get any better than this. And folks, if you have not registered at my site and you're on the fence about whether you want to buy pay selections or not from me, well, I'll give you a $100 sign-up bonus that will automatically go into your account as a credit upon you signing up if you're brand new. So it doesn't get much better than that, Doug. I'll be talking to you next week again. Pretty soon we'll be back in the 2-day-a-week format when football comes around, which isn't too far away. But until then, have a great weekend, my friend. And to each and every one of you out there, from Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Good luck and God bless, folks.